Okay, so get this. Scientists are tracking diseases, you ready for this? Using wastewater. I
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing what we flush can tell us about how healthy a community is.
That's right. It's amazing.
And so today we are diving into a research case study about a program in Kentucky called the Wackiest Unit.
Oh, wow.
That's wastewater assessment for coronavirus in Kentucky,
Huh.
implementing enhanced surveillance technology.
Catchy.
It is. It really is.
It really is a clever acronym, and the program itself is fascinating.
Wow.
They're using this idea of testing wastewater to
Right.
teach high schoolers about public health.
And it's not just any high schoolers. We're talking rural Kentucky.
Right.
I'm guessing access to this type of cutting-edge science isn't always a given out there?
Exactly. The program was created during COVID-19,
Okay.
and they saw a real opportunity
Yeah.
to get young people engaged with a relevant real-world problem right in their own backyards. They're literally learning about viruses and public health by analyzing what's in their community's wastewater.
Oh, and they're actually testing wastewater in the classroom.
Well, it's a little more involved than that.
Okay.
They have this incredible mobile laboratory,
Right.
a molecular biology lab set up in a van,
Wow.
which can do on-site pathogen analysis.
That's so cool.
It visits different schools,
Wow.
giving students a chance to see this type of research up close.
Wow. A science lab on wheels.
Yeah.
I wish they had that when I was in school. All we got were dusty textbooks.
It's a brilliant way to bring these concepts to life,
Yeah.
especially for students in areas where resources might be limited.
Right.
And it's not just theory.
Oh.
The Wackiest Unit is actually aligned with the next generation science standards,
Hmm.
emphasizing inquiry-driven questions and a lot of hands-on learning.
So it's not just about learning the science.
Right.
It's about learning how to think like a scientist.
Precisely. And to really drive it home,
Yeah.
they also organize field trips
Good work.
to local wastewater treatment plants.
Okay. That sounds like a field trip that could go either way on the coolness factor.
Well, think about it.
Okay.
These students get to see how the science they're learning is directly applied to protect their own community's health.
Hmm.
It's that connection between theory and real-world application that can really spark a passion for science.
I can see how that would be a lot more engaging than just reading about it in a textbook.
Right.
But I imagine it wasn't all smooth sailing to
Yeah.
get this program up and running.
You're right. The team faced a number of hurdles.
Like what?
One of the biggest challenges was convincing some schools to participate.
Really?
They were worried about adding more to their already packed curriculum.
I mean, that's understandable.
Mm.
Teachers are incredibly busy,
Right.
and trying to implement something new during a pandemic, that must have been tough.
And then you factor in time constraints and even natural disasters, like
Right.
the flooding that impacted eastern Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It sounds like they had to be really flexible to make this work. How do they overcome those obstacles?
They got creative.
How?
They expanded their recruitment efforts, going beyond their initial target counties
Right.
to find schools that were excited about the program.
Hmm.
They also made a real effort to support the teachers every step of the way.
What kind of support are we talking about?
They provided a ton of resources,
Hmm.
taught some lessons,
Wow.
helped facilitate activities, really anything they could do
Yeah.
to make it easier for the teachers to incorporate the program into their classrooms.
Mhm.
They even developed a simplified testing protocol
Okay.
that could be used in a classroom setting.
So they adapted to the resources that were actually available,
Yeah.
rather than trying to force a square peg into a round hole smart.
It was all about working with what they had
Right.
and finding solutions that would work for everyone.
Yeah.
And that adaptability was key to their success.
Okay.
In the end, they were able to implement the program in multiple schools, engaging hundreds of students.
So despite all the challenges, they actually pulled it off. That's pretty amazing.
It really is, and they're not stopping there. Oh, there's more. They have plans to translate the materials into Spanish to reach a wider audience.
That's a fantastic way to make sure this knowledge is accessible to more communities. What else is on the horizon for the Wackiest Unit?
They're also developing interactive online modules, including lab simulations based on their testing protocol.
So they're taking this innovative program and making it even more accessible that could potentially reach students far beyond Kentucky.
It really speaks to their commitment and vision. They saw a need,
Yeah.
developed a creative solution, and then found ways to make it even better and more far-reaching.
It's amazing how much they've accomplished. But before we go any further, I want to hear from you.
Sure.
What stands out to you about the Wackiest Unit so far? What are you finding most interesting?
What intrigues me is that they didn't just teach students about viruses and wastewater.
Yeah.
They actually had them think critically about the data they were collecting. The culminating project for the unit is to create a public health report where students apply their knowledge to real-world scenarios.
Okay, let's unpack that. What does that look like in practice? What are the students actually doing?
They're learning about the types of information used in evidence-based decision-making and how scientific data informs public health policies.
Right.
Imagine that high school students grappling with these complex questions.
So it's not just a science lesson.
Right.
It's a lesson in civic engagement, too, that's really impressive.
It is, and they build up to that culminating project in a really smart way.
Okay.
The wackiest curriculum starts by laying a solid foundation, teaching students about the fundamentals of viruses.
Okay.
They explore the characteristics of life, comparing living and non-living concepts to understand how viruses operate.
You might be wondering, why wastewater?
Right.
Well, it turns out that what we flush can reveal a goldmine of information about community health.
Exactly. And once the students have that basic understanding of viruses,
Yeah.
they move on to coronaviruses, specifically focusing on COVID-19 and comparing it to seasonal influenza.
That comparison is so important because it really helps to put things into perspective.
Right.
It shows students the unique challenges posed by the pandemic
Yeah.
and how different viruses can impact public health in different ways.
Right. It allows them to see the differences between these viruses, their modes of transmission, and their potential impact.
Right.
But the unit goes beyond just describing the virus.
Okay.
It delves into how viruses spread in populations, using models and illustrations to explain viral replication.
This is where things get really interesting for me. I remember learning about viruses in school,
Yeah.
and it all felt very abstract.
Right.
But if you can actually visualize how a virus spreads,
Right.
it becomes much more real and understandable.
Absolutely. By visualizing and interacting with these concepts, students gain a deeper understanding of the mechanisms behind viral spread, and then they connect those concepts to wastewater,
Okay.
wastewater testing, and water quality.
It's fascinating how these seemingly disparate topics all come together.
It is.
It's like a puzzle, isn't it? You have all these individual pieces,
Uh-huh.
but it's only when you put them together that you can see the full picture.
What's remarkable is how the unit seamlessly weaves together concepts from biology, environmental science, and public health.
It's a prime example of interdisciplinary learning at its best.
It is.
And remember that mobile lab we talked about?
Yeah.
It's not just for show.
Right.
Students actually get to use it to conduct preliminary analyses
Yeah.
of wastewater samples using simplified testing protocols derived from the real procedures.
It's like having a mini research lab right there in their school. It gives them a chance to experience what it's like to be a scientist,
Wow.
analyzing data and drawing conclusions based on their findings.
That's so cool. But I bet that mobile lab is in high demand. Are all the students able to actually use it?
Well, that's where those field trips to the wastewater treatment plants come in.
Oh.
Even if they don't get hands-on experience with the mobile lab, they're still able to see how the testing they're learning about is applied in a real-world setting.
Okay. Those field trips are starting to sound a little more appealing. Now, it's one thing to read about wastewater treatment in a textbook,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to see it happening right in front of you.
Exactly. These field trips bridge the gap between theory and practice. The students can see the direct relevance of what they're learning to their own community's health.
It really brings it all home for them. It shows them how science can be used to address real-world challenges and how they can be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's inspiring to see how the wackiest team turned potential roadblocks into opportunities.
Yeah.
For example, the limited access to equipment in schools led them to create that simplified testing protocol we talked about.
Right. It made the program more adaptable and accessible, which was especially important given the circumstances.
And their commitment to community partnerships was crucial. Working closely with wastewater treatment plants
Yes.
and tailoring the content to each community's needs
Right.
made the learning so much more relevant.
Absolutely. That's one of the key takeaways here. Collaboration and community involvement are essential for this type of program to succeed.
Yeah.
When you bring together passionate people with a shared goal, incredible things can happen.
And speaking of incredible things, the wackiest team isn't resting on their laurels.
Nope.
They're translating their materials into Spanish to reach an even wider audience.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic step towards making this knowledge accessible to more communities.
Yeah.
It reflects their dedication to breaking down language barriers
Right.
and ensuring a more equitable approach to public health education.
And they're developing interactive online modules with lab simulations based on their testing protocol.
Wow.
It's like a virtual version of that mobile lab experience,
Yeah.
potentially reaching students far beyond Kentucky.
It's a brilliant use of technology to expand their impact. Imagine students from all over the globe connecting and learning from each other,
Right.
sharing their insights and experiences. The possibilities are truly exciting.
It's incredible to think that this innovative program in Kentucky,
Yeah.
which started with a simple idea,
Uh-huh.
using wastewater to teach high schoolers about public health,
Yeah.
could have such a far-reaching impact.
It's a testament to the power of creative thinking and the ripple effect of a well-designed educational program.
Yeah.
The Wackiest Unit is about igniting curiosity, fostering critical thinking, and empowering individuals to take an active role in their own health and well-being.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I have a question for you to ponder.
Okay.
This program focused on viruses, but what other health threats could wastewater surveillance help us detect?
That's a great question.
And how can we ensure this technology is used responsibly and ethically as it becomes more widespread food for thought?
Absolutely. This deep dive shows us that sometimes the most unexpected sources can offer valuable insights. What we flush away isn't just waste, it's data. And that data has the potential to help us understand and improve public health in profound ways.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive on wastewater and public health. It's been a fascinating journey exploring this innovative program and all the possibilities it holds. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today and to all of you